time for my January wrap-up. Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I am going to talk about the 5 books that I read this month. Now, if you didn't watch my February TBR video, I only pick 4 books to begin each month, and I'm also not a very fast reader. So I could usually knock out 5, maybe 6 books in a month, or more or less. But I'm going to talk about the books that I read in January, which is, I think, a pretty good mix. I have a sci-fi, a cozy mystery, and 3 historical romances. The first book I read was Crosstalk by Connie Willis. This book follows Brittany, who works at a Silicon Valley tech company, and she and her coworker and boyfriend decide to have this procedure done called an EED, which is supposed to create this empathic connection between romantic partners. And a lot of her co-workers are happy for her and her boyfriend. But her family is totally against it. They try to convince her not to go through with it. And so does her co-worker CB, who is one of their resident tech geniuses, who is very reclusive. He has his lab down in the basement away from everybody else. And he gives her one reason after another to not go through with this procedure. Well, she and her boyfriend go through this procedure anyway, but instead of having an empathic connection with him, she ends up having a telepathic connection with CB. And that's just the beginning of her troubles. This was a book that I purchased early on when I was trying to figure out what kind of books I wanted to read. And this was my TBR jar pick for January, so I didn't know what to expect. And I ended up really enjoying this. I love this story. It's very well paced. It has lovable characters, and there's a lot of great banter. It's a slow burn, and it's also has its share of commentary about the way we communicate nowadays and what communication could be like for the future, and is that what we really want. So I do recommend this. 5 stars. Absolutely enjoyed it. The second book I read was Death by Dark Roast by K.P. Adams, which is a cozy mystery. This book follows Sophie, who works at this estate where she runs 3 cafes there. And she is the amateur sleuth, and there is this food fair going on the property, and in one of the coffee wagons, a murder takes place. And she, even though she's told to keep her nose out of it, she just can't help herself. She needs to find out who committed the murder. This book, for one, was a little slow in the beginning. In fact, the murder doesn't even take place until the end of the 4th chapter. And it does start to pick up like midway through. And I thought it was interesting, you know, how the pieces fit together. Thing is, I really couldn't sink myself into the story, and I think it's because I'm so used to reading romance that it's hard for me to get into something else. So I gave this book 3 stars, but I think this book did what it was supposed to do. Another thing is that it alluded to events that happened before that somehow connect with what's going on presently in the story. And that made me feel like I was missing something. From what I've heard, cozy mysteries are more episodic in that they have a single story encapsulated in each book. And I just didn't feel that. I felt like I was missing something. So I gave this book 3 stars. Next, I read Do You Want to Start a Scandal by Tessa Dare. Yep, I had to read another Tessa Dare. This one follows Charlotte and Piers. Charlotte is at this house party with her family, and Piers, who is a duke, is there for the crown to investigate the Viscount who is the owner of the estate. And while he's in the library snooping around, she goes in there to warn him about her mom and her aggressive methods of getting her daughters married off, which has already gotten her into scandal in the past. But when they hear somebody coming into the library, they don't want anybody to find them alone in the library together, otherwise she would be ruined. So he takes her to the window seat where they hide behind the curtains. This couple comes in and has an assignation, and after they leave, the young son of the Viscount goes in there and screams murder because of the noises that he heard. And that gets everybody's attention, and they find Charlotte and Piers alone in the library, which they were trying to avoid in the first place. So now Charlotte is ruined unless she and Piers get married, and Piers decides to offer to marry her. But she doesn't want to get married at this moment. She doesn't want to get married like this. So she decides that she is going to solve the mystery and find out who the couple is that ended up getting her ruined. As always, the banter, the shenanigans, hilarious, but also with its very touching moments. And the chemistry between this couple is outstanding. And I enjoyed it, gave it 5 stars. I can't think of a single Tessa Dare book that I have not given 5 stars to. This is fantastic. The next book I read was Never Judge a Duke by His Lover by Mary Farmer. This is book 2 in the After the War series. He is allowing his brother and his brother's friends to stay at his estate for the summer after the Napoleonic War. And so when he comes home, naturally the first thing he wants is to see his children. So he goes to the garden to greet his children and sees them playing with his brother's friend Barrett. And when the children see him, they go to greet him. Barrett introduces himself and feels an attraction to Anthony. But Anthony, who is a widower, has never really felt any passion or desire for another person, never understood the big deal that men made about bed sport. But he's starting to feel things for Barrett that he had not experienced before, and he doesn't know what to make of it. But his brother Red and Barrett as well help him to navigate these feelings, and he and Barrett end up in a relationship. But the thing is, these two have vastly different opinions of duty. Barrett is a Viscount and doesn't care anything about duty and is very neglectful of his responsibilities. In fact, he didn't even go to London during the London season to help his sister secure a match. Anthony, on the other hand, is a real stickler for duty. He tries to make sure he does everything right, and he has reservations about this relationship and the possibility that it could interfere with his responsibilities. So that provides this layer of conflict between the two. But things get even more complicated when Anthony's aunt and Barrett's sister show up, and Barrett's sister decides that she is going to convince Anthony to marry her. But by this time we know that's never going to happen. But I really enjoyed this story. Again, great banter, amazing chemistry, great steam, everything that I could expect in this series so far, and I gave it 5 stars. And the last book I read in January was The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. I listened to this on audio. First of all, their narrator is amazing. Her narration really helped engage me in the story. I mean, she can make male voices actually sound male, which I have never heard from any other female narrator before. And I do have some thoughts. Now, I read this mostly out of curiosity because I did watch the first 2 seasons of Bridgerton, and I can see how vastly different season 1 of Bridgerton and The Duke and I are. I did enjoy the banter, I thought Daphne and Simon had great chemistry. However, I found Daphne not nearly as likable as in the series, even though the narration kept saying how likable and sweet and everything she is. Yeah, she is, but there were a couple of moments here that really didn't feel right, and that scene, I wasn't as repulsed by it as I thought I would. I understand why she did it, but I still agree that what she did was completely wrong. She had no business doing that. She could have been more patient, taken her time, given Simon some time to make up his own mind and learn to let go of his hatred for his father and get on with his life. I also didn't mind the second epilogue too much. It was nice to hear what happened with the letters, but still it made it a little long. I gave this book 3.5 stars. I do intend to continue with the series, however. I've heard that some of the other books are better. But anyway, that is my January wrap-up. Those are the books that I've read. What did you think of these books? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.